Well, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has just called out Kamala Harris for her little photo op on Air Force One. Trump tweeting out another fake and staged photo from someone who has no clue what she is doing. You have to plug the cord into the phone for it to work. Biden and Harris abandoned Americans in Afghanistan. They sacrificed Americans to an open border. Well, of course they did. They need more votes. But yeah, Trump's absolutely right here. Take a look at this photo and just how staged it is now. To put this into context, there was no response to the horrible hurricane and how it's affected North Carolina and a lot of the rural towns there. Now people are speculating, well, they want the infrastructure to be destroyed so that people can't vote because many of them are going to be voting for Trump. We know North Carolina is a big swing state, but there was no reaction. My speculation, honestly, is that it just feels like the dynamic with Biden is so pathetic. Like, does anyone even think he's the president? So they kind of probably just got caught up into it. And it's like, oh, wait, he is the president. Maybe he should react to this horrible disaster that just happened and offer some type of relief. He was vacationing again. It's like they caught him with his hands down his pants. Nobody was even covering it because nobody cares. But, oh, yeah, there's a big horrible thing that happened in the United States. But no, he's on vacation. It's like there's like a 90% chance. Like if something major happens in the United States, the overall, like the odds on Biden being in Delaware on a beach somewhere, well, he's not going to be able to be on a beach it's too cold now. But the odds of him being in Delaware, it's got to be like 90% chance or something at this point. But yeah, I mean, look at this. There's really nothing on the people were talking about this. It doesn't even look like there's anything on these pieces of paper. I mean, it's totally staged. And she's like mulling it over. Oh my God, it took me 3 days to say this. Remember, Trump visited places that were affected by this hurricane. I think it was like a category 3. It was really bad. It got historic flooding in North Carolina. Yeah, so I'm sure you guys saw. Now they're saying, well, there's all this historic flooding in North Carolina. That must mean climate change and global warming is happening at an accelerated rate. No, that's not how it works. You don't pick single events and say, well, it's happening because of this. It takes many, many events. And that's not how the process of change within an environment is measured. Okay, you have to take an overall data set. It's not just one event, but that's what they always say. Oh, there's this horrible thing that just happened. It's because of global warming and everything like that. Well, no, it's a lot more complex than that. But I mean, this photo, it's totally fake. She's like taking notes on a blank sheet of paper. I mean, what is this? And you know that the people were like, all right, Kamala, look like you're really scared. Look like you're run down. You just had a long day. And I mean, she went on some type of podcast. It was a total disaster. And they're like, they probably took like 50 photos of her and they let her pick her favorite one. And that's probably what happened. You can see, oh, there's Biden. Oh, he's on the beach in Delaware. Vacationing in Delaware of all places, huh? That's where he always goes. 10 presidential election forecasts. This data makes no sense. That's a line from Interstellar, but no, but seriously, this is ridiculous. I mean, you've got 9 out of 10. Well, Poly Market is not a forecast. I guess maybe, but it's a betting thing. It's not an actual like thing like these are, but like all of these, you've got 538. You've got the problem with a lot of these is when you look at Real Clear Politics right now would probably give Trump around a 51 or a 52% chance to win the election. Back in 2016, Real Clear Politics probably would have given Trump like a 10% chance to win the election. In 2020, it probably would have been 5%. And so the point that I'm getting at is Real Clear Politics, even just their average aggregate based on the polls that they use to create an average, they underestimated Trump heavily in both 2016 and 2020. So now that they've got Trump at a 51% chance, what do you think that signals? You would think with an average or a model like this, you would be able to weigh it properly to where it's like, all right, well, ABC News has polled Trump supporters horribly. They've underrated him in both 2016 and 2020. Maybe we shouldn't reward them by giving them a high weight in terms of, how these models are done, but they don't do that at all. All these liberal pollsters that have sucked in 2016 and 2020, they still get grades of A's, B pluses. It's Quinnipiac, it's YouGov. I mean, these are horrible polls that totally underestimated Trump in both 2020 and 2016. They all incorporate Bloomberg is infested in here. You get new Bloomberg polls every week, and they're all total crap. And it's like, if, according to Real Clear Politics, Trump has a 51% chance and they underestimated him in 2016 and they underestimated him in 2020, I don't give a shit how accurate the New York Times was in the 2004 election. That doesn't matter. I care about how they poll Trump supporters. But see, the problem with these models is they go back to like 2004, 2008, 2012. It's all irrelevant data. It doesn't matter. You need to put a higher emphasis on which pollsters were correct in the Trump years, 2016 and 2020, and also weigh 2012 as well. Take the last three, but they go back like 7 or 8 elections. It's especially when it comes to Trump, because he's such a different type of figure. We got consistently bad polling from some of these pollsters, and they're still heavily weighted. So it is crazy to see. You would figure these nuanced models would have Trump at around like 70 to 80% chance to win the election, because the idea is if Trump is running even right now in terms of the polling, where he's winning some of the swing states, he's losing some of them. He might be around 275, 280 electoral votes. He might eke out a victory according to Real Clear Politics right now. That would signal that, oh my God, considering how they underestimated him in 2016 and 2020, he would be a heavy favorite now that they have him winning slightly. And you would figure, but that's not how these models do it. They still, they're still giving pollsters that have been horrifically inaccurate over the last 2 cycles high weight and grades of an A or a B plus, and that really mucks up all these models, and it gives them bad data. And so that's why, listen, these are very, it's 58, 57, 57, 57, 57, 55, 55. You've got Daily Mail, Trump at 55%. I wonder if they're weighing the more accurate pollster. These, like if this was election night, based on how Trump overperforms all of this stuff, these are good numbers still for Trump, because a lot of these models, they would have had Biden at like a 74, 75% chance. They had Hillary at an over 80% chance, and Trump narrowly beat Biden. He overperformed every single swing state according to polling, outside of like maybe Nevada, and then also Georgia, I guess you could say. And then in 2016, we all know what happened there. But that's just kind of what's going on with those models in terms of the way that they still emphasize the ABC News polls, the YouGov polls. These are pollsters that, my God, if we're doing a grade, if I were to give these pollsters a letter grade, you get an F minus. You were wrong by 8 points. Good. This is like way outside of the polling error. 2-3 points, okay, you're 8 points off, but no, they're still God. They're, New York Times, they're all, ABC News. How does ABC News poll Wisconsin? And then they get like this weight when they've been a disaster in Wisconsin. It's just crazy. If you're going to have an algorithm, why not create the algorithm based on how well they've especially put a high emphasis on the Trump years? They don't do that. They go back to like, oh my God, New York Times was so right in the 2000 election, so they have to be an A+. Well, no. What about what they did in 2020 and 2016 in the Trump years? They don't do that. And so that's the problem with a lot of those models. You've also got this, Tim Walz and his wife cheering while no one is on the field. So I actually did look at this, and it does seem like this is another one of those staged photos where they told Walz and his wife to get up and start cheering so we could take a photo of you, a little photo op. It looks like maybe there's a punter right there. I don't know if he's warming up or something, but it's just, this was not during a play. It might be like during a punt or something, but you wouldn't cheer like that during a punt. Looks like Michigan might be receiving a punt, like the punt's happening where you can't see it, but back along the 10 or the 15. But this is just a totally staged photo as well. They told them to do this. It's just another one of the, it's a Kamala thing where she's like, oh, you need to act very sad. They won't even give her paper with notes on it. It's like just blank paper, and Trump calls it out. It's pretty funny. And then here it is. This was Kamala on a podcast talking about her economic plan. Let's see.
Going from a show to a whole entire company. What is your economic plan moving forward for people who are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling for groceries and rent and homeowners?
So look, I grew up,
you could tell she was this close to saying, I grew up in a middle-class family. At least she caught herself, but let's see what she does.
My sister and I were raised by our mother. We lived for a long time in an apartment on top of a child care center. That child care center was actually owned by a woman who lived 2 doors.
I can't listen to this. You ask her about a plan, and it's the default settings. She goes back to the default settings. It's a factory reset. At least they've installed the recent updated to Kamala to not do, because you could tell this is a new model for her where they've installed this. She was about to say it. I was born, in a middle class family. But she caught herself. But then it's the same stuff. There's no plan. She's just blabbering on about basically the same story. Like, look at this.
Economic plan moving forward for people who are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling for groceries and rent and homeowners.
So look, I grew up,
I grew up, I can't say that again. They told me not to do it because it's like a meme at this point. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.